Hey, this is Scott of Banzai.com. Today I want to talk about DSLRs and weather resistance. Some of the companies out there make it pretty obscure to find out if a lens is weather resistant. Of course, you've got lenses and DSLR camera bodies, but a lot of people say waterproof. They're definitely not waterproof. So if you're trying to dunk them in water, that's a bad idea. I don't know of any digital SLRs that are actually waterproof, but it's called weather resistance, which means rain. Some of them can handle rain and dust. You know, less dust can get into the camera when you've got sealing in all of the joints and all that inside the digital SLR, and especially the connection between the lens and the camera body. If you've got a seal in there, that's a good thing. So first off, I know of Pentax. They specifically label things WR for weather resistant, and they've got seals in the back, and they also have seals inside the little lens itself. Of course, the camera bodies also. I've disassembled a few Pentax DSLRs, and I've seen the seals. They're like closed cell foam type deal that wraps around the edges of the, as you put two pieces of, say, plastic together, you've got edges and then a compression seal with the foam. Pretty interesting. But so like I said, Pentax has all of their lenses labeled WR, which is easy to understand. It means just a general level of sealing, but they also have the DA Star lenses, which have supposedly higher level of weather seals compared to their standard WR. Next off, Canon, I believe they actually do label most of their L lenses as weather resistant. It's called something like DWR. So at least they tell you specifically, okay, this lens is weather resistant. That means you can expect some moderate water or dust, you know, a sandy environment. Nikon, which I'm actually going to, it's really difficult to figure out if a lens is weather sealed. They don't actually say, as far as I can tell, which is kind of difficult. I don't understand why they don't commit to saying, okay, this is weather resistant. That means it's got this and this and that in it. Like I mentioned in my previous video, I have this 50 1.8 G lens in the back. It does have a rubber gasket, but I have no idea if it has any type of sealing inside. Of course, if you put a filter on your lens and it's capable of taking a filter, that's a slight improvement. That means, you know, water will have to get through one more barrier before it gets into the front of your lens. Just something to consider with filters as a potential benefit. But then there are companies also like Olympus that actually say, okay, this lens or this camera body are weather resistant. I think that's a good stance. I don't know, Sony, I believe they also might mention, at least with their camera bodies. I would have to see about their lenses. I haven't researched them specifically. Sigma, I know that they just had started coming out with some weather resistant lenses, but I'm also not sure about how detailed. I would like to see companies, camera companies and lens companies more in the future say specifically, you know, this lens can withstand a certain amount of water or something like that, some type of standard, I guess you could say. It says, okay, this is weather resistant by this standard. It would be really nice, and I guess it isn't that necessary depending on how you do your thing. You can always buy some type of bag or covering for your camera that you just put on if that's your thing. I don't personally like doing that, but as I'm switching brands, I'll have to consider that in the future, because with the Pentax I never really had a problem, because if I were ever going out, you know, I expected rain, I would just use my 55mm lens that has weather resistance. But besides DSLRs, there are actually waterproof cameras, and I've got the Pentax Optio WG2 is waterproof. That means you can put it in water for a certain amount of time based on a standard. This one, as I've shown you before in a previous video, it can be waterproof up to 40 feet for a certain amount of time. I think it might be 40 an hour or something like that, maybe 40 minutes. But it's just some basics on water resistance with digital SLRs and standard cameras. Thanks.